The problem with dividend investing is that most stocks only pay you on a quarterly basis, which is fine, and then there's some others that will pay you monthly, which is better, but that still doesn't quite cut it. What would really be awesome is getting a dividend every single week, and in this video, I'm gonna be sharing with you a portfolio of dividend stocks that will do just that, and in aggregate will pay you not quarterly, not monthly, but every single week out of the year to make sure you'll never again have to go more than 7 days without getting a passive income paycheck. And when putting all of this together, essentially the strategy here, guys, was to create a portfolio that stacked the dividend payments from the underlying stock so that you'd get at least one payment coming in every single week, which admittedly was no small feat, but we got it done, guys, and in doing so actually built a pretty solid, well-diversified portfolio, which we'll see in much more detail later on in the video. But first, we're gonna run through all of the weekly payments so you can see how it all comes together to deliver dividend income all 52 weeks out of the year. And out of the 20 stocks that are in this sample portfolio, 7 of them will be paying you in January. We have Kimberly-Clark paying on January 4th in the first week here, followed by XYLD and Pepsi there just a few days later. Moving on to the second week, you can get a payment from Altria Group, ticker symbol MO, followed by Realty Income, the monthly dividend income company, on the 14th at the end of the week. And then moving into the third week of January, you've got Intuit, ticker symbol INTU, paying on the 18th on that Tuesday. And last but not least, you've got Comcast, ticker symbol CMCSA, paying on January 26th, which makes a great way to kick off the year. Moving into February, guys, we have some more great stocks paying us on the very first day of the month. We've got Verizon, AT&T, and XYLD paying, so it's going to be a pretty solid day of dividend income for you on the first. And then as we head into week 2 in February, we've got EPD paying on that Friday, followed by a few days later in the third week, Procter & Gamble and Realty Income. And then we're finishing off the month of February with some incredible companies. We've got Johnson & Johnson paying on the 22nd and Starbucks paying on the 25th. And that last day of February, the 28th, coincides with the first week of March, where we have AWR and Intel paying on the first day of March. We have XYLD paying 1 day later on the 2nd. And then moving into the second week of March, we've got Chevron and Microsoft paying on the 10th. Then, as per usual, we've got Realty Income in the third week there, paying on the 15th, with Lockheed Martin and Bank of America paying about a week and a half later on the 25th. And then as we head into the last week of March, we have another payment coming in from XYLD on the 29th, followed by, last but not least, Pepsi paying on the last day of the month, which is a great way to close out March. And just so you guys know all of the dates for these, this was historical data that I found on Seeking Alpha. If you go over to the dividend stats for any given company, it will show you the dividend history and the dates that they paid out those dividends. So that's where I got all the information that we're seeing on the calendar here. And then moving into April, we've got Coca-Cola paying there on the 1st, followed by Kimberly-Clark again just a few days later. And as we're going through this, you'll notice that quarter to quarter, although we're getting dividend income from the same group of stocks, sometimes the dates might vary, and that's totally fine. What's important is that we're still getting a dividend payment coming in every single week. Now, going back to the calendar, heading into the third week of April, we've got Realty Income paying on the 15th, which seems to be the trend for that company, followed by Intuit paying on the 18th, just a couple days later. And then the last week of April, guys, is looking really sweet for income. You're going to be getting a payment from XYLD on the 26th, a payment from Comcast just 1 day later on the 27th, and then a payment from Altria Group to close out the month on April 29th. Now, moving into May, we've got Verizon and AT&T paying on the first Monday of the month, and then moving into the next week, we have payments coming in from EPD and Realty Income, followed by Procter & Gamble just a few days later on the 16th, and then just like we saw in February, we are closing out May really strong with Johnson & Johnson paying on the 24th and Starbucks paying there at the end of the month on the 27th. And then 5 days later, as we jump into June, you'll be kicking off the month really strong with payments coming in from AWR, Intel, and XYLD on the 1st, and then about a week later, or 8 days later, I guess, your next payment will be from Microsoft, who's paying on the 9th, followed by Chevron a day later on the 10th, and then as per usual, Realty Income paying on the 15th, and then moving into the next week, we have Lockheed Martin and Bank of America paying on Friday the 24th. And then in the last week of June, we'll have another payment coming in from XYLD, which is exactly 4 weeks after the payment that we received on the 1st. And then we're closing out the month of June with a payment from Pepsi. Now, just 1 day later, we are coming into July pretty hot with a payment from Coca-Cola there on the 1st, followed by Kimberly-Clark just a couple days later, paying on July 5th. With the usual suspects paying us again just 1 week later, we've got Altria Group paying on the 11th, with Realty Income again on the 15th, followed by Intuit Intuit there on the 18th, and then we're closing out the month of July with a payment from XYLD on the 26th and Comcast there on the 27th. And real quick, now that we've made our way through a couple quarters, it might start to seem a little repetitive seeing these same companies over and over. And with that, I want to say this is how it should be, guys. It should be repetitive. It should be boring. That's dividend investing. It's nothing sexy, but it is effective. And also, I want to note real quick that you can obviously swap out any of these companies for some other ones that are more suited to your preference. These are just the ones that I chose for this demonstration. And truth be told, we might not even need to have all 20 of these companies. We probably could have cut a few of them out. Like, for example, we have AT&T and Verizon always paying on the same date here. And what we're seeing here is no exception. Once again, they are paying on the first day of the month. And then at the end of the following week, we have a payment coming in from EPD. So far we've kicked off August with some really high yielders, and then we move into the third week. We have Procter & Gamble and Realty Income paying on the 15th, followed by, in the following week, Johnson & Johnson and Starbucks, with the month of August being closed out by XYLD. Now, as far as September goes, we are getting payments from AWR and Intel on the first day of the month, with Microsoft paying us exactly 1 week later, and then we have Chevron there on the following Monday on the 12th, with Realty Income, as per usual, guys, paying on the 15th. And then the 4th and 5th weeks are pretty standard as well. We have Lockheed Martin on the 23rd, and then in the last week, we have XYLD and Bank of America and Pepsi paying us. Now, officially 3 quarters into the year, we are kicking off October with a payment from Coca-Cola there on the 3rd, and Kimberly-Clark is paying us on the next day. And then in the second week of the month, we have Altry Group paying us on the 11th, and Realty Income paying us on the 14th, and you'll notice it's not on the 15th this time, and the reason being because the 15th is on a Saturday, so they're just paying the day before. And then moving into the next week, we have Intuit paying on the 18th, followed by XYLD and Comcast there about a week later. All right, now into November, this is going to look pretty familiar, guys. We are kicking off the month with a payment from Verizon and AT&T, so a great way to kick off the month, with EPD paying us at the end of the following week. This is very on trend. I don't even need to say what's going on with Realty Income because you guys already know. And then in the last week of November, we have Johnson & Johnson paying on the 22nd and Starbucks paying on the 25th. And that brings us to the last month of the year, guys. We are kicking off December with a payment from AWR, a payment from Intel, and a payment from XYLD. A great day of dividend income, with Microsoft paying exactly a week later. And this next week is a little bit unusual, actually. We have Chevron paying on the 12th, but we also have a Coca-Cola payment in December. Guys, this is weird because Coca-Cola just paid us in October, so if we're sticking to the quarterly schedule, they should be paying us in January. Interestingly enough, Coca-Cola does this every single year where they break from their quarterly payment schedule and pay in December 1 month earlier. I don't exactly know why that is. It's just something that they do, and on that same day, we're getting a payment from Realty Income. What a surprise. Wow. And then we are closing out the year really strong with a payment from Lockheed Martin there on the 23rd, with Bank of America paying us just 1 week later on December 30th. So we did it, guys. One dividend payment coming in every single week out of the year. Now what I want to do is show you all of these holdings and show you this portfolio in more detail so you can really see how all of these stocks come together to create a pretty solid, well-balanced, well-diversified portfolio. All right, guys, so we have this portfolio all laid out here from AWR at the top all the way down to XYLD there at the bottom. And in this sample portfolio, I've accounted for basically $1,000 invested into each of the 20 positions, totaling a cost basis of about $20,000, guys. The market value is going to be a little bit different, a little bit under that, because I made this spreadsheet a few days before I started filming, so the market's kind of had an impact on the return so far. I mean, we're down a little bit, nothing too crazy, but anyway, moving on, you guys will see a couple things here. This portfolio actually has a pretty nice dividend yield, 4.13% for the yield, and the 5-year growth rate's really not bad either. For the portfolio, it's just above 7%. So not only does this portfolio offer a high dividend yield, but you're also getting a really nice 5-year growth rate as well. I think it's a really nice combination. And in total, guys, this portfolio is generating about $820 of annual dividend income. And furthermore, if we go over to the diversification page, you guys will see that it's pretty well balanced. I mean, obviously, each of the individual holdings are going to be evenly balanced because there's the same amount invested into each one. But the diversification by sector is not looking too bad either. We're pretty heavily weighted in consumer staples, which personally I don't mind because these are more secure, more reliable, more stable stocks to own. But then across the other sectors, things aren't looking too bad either. We've got 5% in ETFs, that's coming from XYLD. We've got 5% in consumer discretionary, about 5% in real estate, 5% in industrials, 5% in healthcare. We've got a little bit more in technology. We've got about 15% due to the 3 stocks that we have: Microsoft, Intuit, and Intel. We have about 10% in energy coming from EPD and Chevron. We've got 15% in communications coming from AT&T, Verizon, and Comcast. And we have 5% in the remaining 2 sectors, utilities and financials. There's some stocks in this portfolio that are pretty high yielders like XYLD, Altria Group, EPD. The list goes on and on all the way down to Realty Income. We've got some stocks that offer a high 5-year growth rate. XYLD, we won't include this one, but Bank of America's got near 20%. Intuit's about 15%. Starbucks about 14.5%, all the way down to probably AWR, anything 8% and above I consider high yield. Then we also have some that offer some really nice dividend growth histories. We've got a handful of dividend kings in this portfolio, right? Procter & Gamble, we've got Coca-Cola, we've got Johnson & Johnson, Altria Group, we've got a few that are getting close to it, Pepsi, Kimberly-Clark, Chevron. So really, guys, this portfolio just has so much to offer just in terms of dividend yield, dividend growth histories. This portfolio, for me, checks a lot of boxes. Continuing on, believe it or not, this portfolio actually is generating market-beating returns as well. As you guys can see, if we look across the last 8 years, from 2014 to today, this portfolio is just barely beating the S&P 500. When we put it up against VU, if you invested $20,000 into both of these in January 2014, you would have ended up with about $2,000 more by investing in this portfolio than you would have had if you were investing in the S&P 500, which is great. And furthermore, if we scroll down, take a look at the dividend income. First year, you would have generated about $670 of annual dividend income, but moving forward to 2021, that last full year, you would have more than doubled that and ended up with $1,455. And this is without putting any additional contributions in this portfolio, guys. This is just a one lump sum $20,000 investment and just letting it ride for the last 8 years. And if you were to keep this going, just let it keep growing, keep compounding without putting any additional money into it, just that one $20,000 lump sum initial investment. If we scroll down, we can see that in that 20th year, your portfolio would have been valued at $131,655, and you'd be bringing in almost $6,000 of annual dividend income, which is crazy. In 20 years, without lifting a finger, without doing anything, you will have turned $20,000 into over $130,000 and would be generating dividend income every single week by investing in this portfolio. I think that's really cool. So now that you guys are fully equipped to start generating dividend income every single week, check out this next video right over here to learn about the 3 essential types of dividend stocks that you need to have in your portfolio. And we briefly touched on these 3 types a little bit in this video, but you should be prioritizing them based on where you're at in your investing journey. But anyway, learn more about it right here, guys. I'll see you in the next one.